welcome to the Mike Graham Show. I'm Mike Graham, and it is 7:02. Blimey, we're a little bit late. Sorry about that. I'm not quite sure why. We were slightly tardy getting everything organised. As you can see from the international clock, it's only 8 o'clock in some parts of the world. Elliot Keck is here. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
TaxPayers Alliance. Busy week for you guys this week.
Yeah, very busy.
Because we've had a complete and utter... I don't know, what's the word for a shit show that you can say that it doesn't sound like shit show? We have to come up with another word because I don't like to swear. People don't like me swearing, apparently.
Maybe apocalypse.
Apocalypse. Yeah, I like that. Well, no, we can't.
That's the swear word, I'm afraid, yeah.
No. Anyway, listen, we've got lots to talk about this morning. All of the headlines very much concentrated still on what's going on in Iraq, and I'm going to read you a couple of them here. Let me just see what I can do. There we are. Allies round on weak UK, front page of the Times. Miliband-led Trump war revolt. I mean, isn't that hilarious that Ed Miliband is the guy who is driving foreign policy in the United Kingdom, and he's the guy telling Keir Starmer that he has to find some kind of lawyer before he can actually go and do anything. You know, Starmer got up yesterday in Parliament and started talking about how, you know, until I was satisfied that there was no law being broken, I did not wish to commit ourselves to, you know, any kind of intensive action against Iran. The guy is so completely and utterly useless, right, that not only does he have no argument, but if you were a lawyer, you would say, well, hang on a minute. So 3 days ago, you said you're not going to get involved in the attack on Iran because it might be in breach of international law. But now you are going to be involved in attacks on Iran because it's not in breach of international law. I mean, it's so ridiculous, isn't it? Labour ensnared in China spy probe is the front page of the Mail. Some very dramatic pictures of the blowing up of an Iranian vessel somewhere off the coast of Sri Lanka, where Trump's submarine torpedoes Iran warship. And Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of State for Defense in America, saying that it's the first time that we've apparently seen a torpedo hit a boat since the Second World War. And I kept saying to myself, did we not see that in the Falkland Islands? But I'm not sure. The Belgrano, yeah. But was the Belgrano not hit by... torpedo. Was it hit by a torpedo or was it hit by a strike from an airplane? I mean, I can't remember. Anyway, but I'm sure there'll be those of you out there who took part in the sinking of the Belgrano, who were even serving as members of the armed forces in the Falklands War. So do let us know. Kemi Badenoch blast Starmer for being weak, front page of the Express. And front page of the Telegraph... I always want to call him Mazir Mahmood because he used to work for the News of the World, but it's not him. It's Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, apparently cracking down on asylum seekers, saying, if you come here and you try and hoodwink us, we will kick you out of the country. Nobody believes a word of it. Nobody thinks that she'll ever do anything like that. And she also says migrants must know at least a grasp of A-level English in order to be able to win the right to stay in this country. Everybody knows that's not going to work either. Completely utterly ridiculous. The Sun goes with a story about Manchester United footballer Harry Maguire. The Greek cops apparently wanted £50,000 of a bribe from him to stop prosecuting him. That's not particularly surprising. And the one story that I do think is extraordinary, which nobody's really talking much about, is that the chief of the Police Federation has been arrested on corruption charges. And it's not so much that he's been arrested on corruption charges that surprises me. It's the fact that he was being paid, apparently, about £700,000 a year as the head of the Police Federation. Which seems amazing, doesn't it? Absolutely extraordinary. We've got a poll going as well. Should we get the poll out there, Pooch? The poll is about, because it's International Book Day, World Book Day, sorry. Which is the best book? Is it Harry Potter? Is it the Kama Sutra? Is it 1984? Or is it the Bible? Some people have suggested that we should have put the Quran in there, but I was a bit worried some of you might set fire to it, and obviously knowing that you would get away with it. So far the Bible apparently is winning, I think, on 40%, and 1984 coming up with 35%. 1984, of course, supposedly a work of fiction, is now looking more and more like a work of non-fiction because it's all coming true. Anyway, listen, never mind all that. We're going to get to it. We're going to talk to Jamie Jenkins a little bit later on. Siobhan White, we're going to talk to as well, the mother of that young woman who was murdered by an asylum seeker. Jennifer Ewing joins us from Republicans Overseas as well. And we're also going to go over to Dubai and find out what the latest is from the British expat community. Rada Sterling is going to join us. Right now, though, let us say a very good morning to the boss of the Taxpayers Alliance, Mr. Elliot Keck. Very good morning, Elliot.
Morning.
Now, last time you were here, the government was in free fall, looking completely and utterly rudderless and absolutely and utterly useless. Funnily enough, we're still there. You know, nothing's changed, except we've now had sort of even more opportunities to look at Keir Starmer and his hopeless, hapless reaction to what is going on in the Middle East.
Yeah, I think very difficult. Lots of things have gone wrong during the course of this government, and it's been difficult to identify what's the one thing they'll be remembered for, what's the one humiliation, what's the one scandal, what's the one catastrophe that will define them. And there's been a long list, but I think this one could be it, actually, because the one thing they've always said about Starmer is, well, at least he's good at foreign affairs, well, at least he's very sensible, at least,
statesman.
At least he's a statesman. And yet here you have some of the UK's closest, most stalwart allies slamming him for the, I think, disgracefully slow speed and a disgracefully slow way that he responded to events in the Middle East. The fact that he refused to allow the United States to use military bases, the fact that he has been so slow in coming to the defence of Cyprus, Bahrain, the UAE, and others. And it's so humiliating for a country that was once a great power, a country that was once defined by standing up for its allies, even in the darkest moments, even in the darkest hour. We're now sat on our hands while at the same time some of our closest friends are being bombed.
Yes. And I mean, there's no question at all, is there, that America is going ahead and doing things which any sort of normal, pretty, shall we say, sure of themselves country is doing. I mean, yesterday I couldn't believe it when the reports started coming in about the torpedoing of this boat in the Indian Ocean, I guess, off the coast of Sri Lanka. And for all the world, the Sky News, the Guardian this morning's got 87 people dead. Kind of almost treating Iran as though it's some kind of normal country. Treating it as really though it hasn't threatened the entire world with carnage. It hasn't bankrolled terrorists every single place that they operate. The idea that we're having, and we'll hear from Christian Drogan later on from Watchmen, that they're having sort of vigils for the Ayatollah's death up and down the country in mosques. I find it incredible that people cannot see evil when they're looking right at it.
Yeah, listen, this is a regime that has been involved in terrorist attacks right across the world, including in the West, including the United Kingdom, involved in assassinations, involved in fomenting extreme sectarian plots and sectarian divisions. Of course, was largely responsible for the attack on Israel on October 7th, responsible for what Hezbollah have done to the Lebanese, what Assad did to the Syrians, and what's continuing to go on in Yemen and Iraq. It's definitely one of the most malign influences anywhere in the world. Yeah. I'm very pleased personally.
And it's not a debatable subject. No. There is no question that they.
I just look what they've done to their own people, killed tens of thousands of their own people in just the beginning of this year alone. Right. I'm quite pleased to see Trump take decisive action. I know that there are disputes, and some people want the United States to stay out of the Middle East. But now that that action has been taken, it was very, very clear immediately that the Iranians would start lashing out. They would start firing off their ballistic missiles. It was very clear they were going to aim at civilian populations. Right. It was very clear they were going to aim at British bases. Yes. It was very clear they were going to aim at countries that were not involved. And for it to take, I think it was 48 hours, was it? Or 36 hours? I think it was Sunday evening when Starmer finally gave approval to use British bases for defensive operations. It was only on Tuesday morning that he agreed for one of the UK's major destroyers or frigates to be sent to the Middle East. Right. That was 4 days on.
It now takes, apparently it's going to take 2 weeks
it's
for HMS Dragon to get
That's
there.
Right, yeah.
By which point it might be all over. It's completely ridiculous. Because again, we've said this many times in regard to other aspects of this government's inability to actually do its job. It's not just that they are getting it wrong, it's the fact that they are so incompetent and they get it wrong. That's the thing I think that surprises most people, because I think we've said this before, we all expected the Keir Starmer government not to be something that people from you and I's kind of perspective on politics would like. But we assumed that they would know what they were doing, where they actually don't know how to run the country.
Yeah, and I still assumed, even despite everything, that at a moment of genuine international crisis, that Starmer would be able to do the right thing. Yeah. And yet he seems to have this, I can even describe it sort of almost fetish for international law. He's so obsessed by it that he's willing to allow essentially a tool for evil empires to limit his own ability to act and limit his own ability to defend British interests, British citizens.
It completely stymies his ability to actually make any sense.
Yeah.
Because he's constantly looking around for a law. And I said this jokingly on Monday that, this is a guy who can't order a cup of tea without seeking the advice of a lawyer to go, I'm sure to make sure that I'm not breaching any international laws by asking for, some English breakfast tea because it might well be in breach of something that somebody said at the International Court of Justice, last week. It
could have colonial implications.
Stupid. I mean, it tells you everything you need to know. Anyone who's been through a divorce, anyone who's been through a legal system where you've had to do anything at all with lawyers would tell you, these are not people who should be running anything. They're very good at arguing things perhaps that are not true. They're quite good at getting you things that you probably don't deserve. They're also quite good at screwing everything up. But what they're not good at is understanding the truth or understanding, the way of the world.
Or acting on principle and being decisive.
Because everything is up for grabs, right?
And instead they would have spent days and days and days poring over precedent and poring over legal documents and treaties and all the rest of it. When at the same time, British citizens are being bombed from the skies by one of the most evil regimes to ever walk this earth. And I think if
and almost every major terrorist attack that's taken place in the world in the past, 25 years, you can look at Iran and go, they had some role. They had to have some role in that, whether it was bankrolling it directly or indirectly. They certainly had a role.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's have a look at Caroline Leavitt, because I think sometimes we need to seek solace from the likes of the Americans in order to see how government should be done. And there's a fantastic clip which I'm about to show you now. Caroline Leavitt came out and did a press conference yesterday in the White House briefing room, in which she once again launched herself, as she often does, at CNN and the media and what they've got wrong. Have a look at this.
For these families. Given what Secretary Hegseth said this morning, is it the position of this administration that the press should not prominently cover the deaths of U.S. service members?
No, it's the position of this administration that the press in this room and the press across the country should accurately report on the success of Operation Epic Fury and the damage it is doing to the rogue Iranian regime that has threatened the lives of every single American in this room. If the Iranian regime had their choice, they would kill every single person in this room. And so we can all be very grateful that we have an administration and that we have men and women in our armed forces who are willing to sacrifice their own lives for the rest of us in this room and for every American across the country and for every troop that is based in the Middle East. That's what these...
Hegseth was complaining that it was front page news about these 6 service members who were killed.
That's not what the Secretary said, Caitlin, and that's not what the Secretary meant, and you know it. You know you are being disingenuous. There is not... We've never had a Secretary of Defense who cares more...
Drones get through or tragic things happen, it's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad. As you know, we cover the deaths of U.S. service members under every president.
The press does only want to make the president look bad. That's a fact. Especially you. No, listen to me. Especially you and especially CNN. And the Secretary of Defense cares deeply about our war fighters and our men and women in uniform. He travels all across this country to meet with them, to connect with them, and your network has hardly ever probably reported on that. You also had the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Chairman Kane, who's a brave patriot, standing alongside the Secretary at the Pentagon this morning, again expressing his condolences to these families. And I just told you that the President of the United States will be attending their dignified transfer. So please,
that's not making the president look bad. That's showcasing that.
We expect you to cover that as you should. We expect you to cover that as you should, Caitlin. But you and your network know that you take every single thing this administration says and tries to use it to make the president look bad. That is an objectable fact.
I don't think covering troop deaths is trying to make the
if you're trying to argue right now that CNN's overwhelming coverage is not negative of President Donald Trump, I think the American people would tend to agree, and your ratings would tend to disagree with that as well. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. On the school strike, back to that for a minute. I understand that the U.S. does not target.
I mean, that is what a great woman she is. Like Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary. We don't have anyone like that, Elliot, do we? And in fact, I'm not even sure if we have a press secretary at the moment, do we?
No, I don't think there's any staff in number 10 at all. I think it's just sort of Keir Starmer,
rattling about. Yeah, because no chief of staff. Because Elliot, what's his face? Morgan McSweeney. Morgan McSweeney's gone.
Yeah, Tim Allen resigned.
Tim Allen resigned.